that there is a lobby group from the lenders community which has gone to the RBI, and the RBI is currently in a consultative process. So what's happening? What the lobby group seems to be suggesting is that they need this right to lock devices that were bought on loans if the borrower has not repaid those loans on time. And this is a request that has gone from the lending group. Of course, the RBI at this point in time is considering this. However, it has not arrived at a decision yet. What is the argument that they're making? They're saying that we used to have this power, then the RBI told us not to use it anymore because there were instances of misuse of these rights of locking the cell phone. In fact, third-party applications were actually using this as a backdoor entry into the phones, illegally accessing contact lists as well as a personal photo portfolio, photos of the customers, and then misusing them to put more pressure on the borrowers who were defaulting on their loans. So the RBI back in 2024 had stopped lenders from going ahead and locking devices. Right now, what they're saying is that the lenders believe that they have enough of a safeguard in place to ensure that these are used only for the purposes that they're intended for, which is to nudge borrowers to repay those loans and blocking the calling and internet facilities only. What the RBI is at this point in time considering, or at least thinking about, is allowing a benchmark as to at what point in time you will want to introduce these kind of restrictions, and whether lenders need a strong redressal mechanism in case a customer claims that their phone has been wrongly locked. So there needs to be a strong redressal in place. I have right now N.S. Nappanai, Senior Advocate of the Supreme Court, joining us over a video call actually. Nappanai, I just wanted to get a sense from you about this argument that I don't have a recourse to recover the loan, so I need the right to lock the device. How legally tenable is this argument?
I would say it's quite worrisome because, the right to recover is inherent with the lender. The procedure that is to be followed for this recovery is where the criticality arises. In law, you must have a due process enabled methodology to pursue this recovery methodology. Here, what the lenders are asking for is actually to be allowed to circumvent that due process and say that should be using a different kind of coercive mechanism to make borrowers pay back. Now, whether that coercive mechanism is legally valid or not is the issue here. So, for instance, if you were to take a home loan and you default in your payments, the bank does not come and lock up your home, right, and restrict entry for you. They would still have to go before the DRT and they would have to file their cases for the recovery, and they would, if at all any interim order is obtained, it's through due process. Now, all this becomes cumbersome and expensive for a lender also to follow, and therefore they are asking for alternatives. But that alternative cannot be a shortcut or a circumvention which will give a complete go-by to settle legal principles.
I was coming to that home loan example because that was an example that was thrown at me by somebody who was actually part of this discussion. Yes, you have to follow due process when it comes to secured assets like a house or a car, which are bought on financing, and then if there is a default, they need to recover that money. But there is also the fact that there is really no recourse when it comes to unsecured credit, right? At that point in time, the lender can't attach any assets, and the argument there being that if I don't have this, then I don't have anything, and I might as well shut down that business entirely.
See, now again, that is something that the lender will have to work on in terms of, one, there would be a mortgage on the device itself. So it is not really standing on par with the typical unsecured, lending. It may be more in the context of a charge. Secondly, how to enforce the charge becomes the issue, and what you're really looking for is not circumvention, but summary proceedings. So that is some solution which RBI can look at. RBI's Fair Practice Code already has within it certain processes in terms of grievance redressal, for the borrowers also to raise their grievance in terms of whether a particular amount that is being claimed by a borrower, by a lender, is valid or not. Similarly, there can be a grievance redressal mechanism that is built in, and summary proceedings can be introduced for these kind of loans. But to say that I would have absolute right to decide when and how I will recover or use a coercive measure would at a small or large level be considered draconian.
I want to ask you one last question. In terms of the regulatory ambit, right? In the past, the RBI has come out with certain regulations which have gone till the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has held that this is either ultra-virus or outside of the scope of what the RBI can regulate. Does this fall under that?
It could run the risk of that. You know, the IMAI judgment in terms of cryptocurrencies is a classic example. That was also a serious harm that the regulator was trying to ring fence against, right? In terms of security, safety, as well as protection of the investors, etc. So the intent was good, but the execution was bad. So similarly here, the intent is good. The problem statement that has been put out by the lenders is a fair point, but the execution will result in being bad if it is just being done in the manner in which it's being proposed by the lenders, which is to say that I need to recover. I am extending loans to small individuals who may or may not have the wherewithal to buy those devices otherwise, and who may or may not give me sufficient backing in terms of a guarantee or a mortgage, etc. And therefore, my rights should be protected. Everything is a fair statement, but the problem cannot be resolved by shortcuts. You will have to find summary processes which will speed up the procedure, will be cost effective, but will still be within the remit of law or the constitutionality of a regulatory framework.
Something else, basically. That's the message that one could take from this entire conversation. Thank you so much, Napane, for joining us on this conversation. It's a pleasure talking to you as always. All right, Shreyansi, so, that's what the lawyer is saying. Think of something else. Don't try to coerce people into repaying your loan by locking their phones, because that's not a right that the regulator has.
Well, absolutely, and the decision is something that we'll all be waiting out for. The frenzy, of course, we have seen when it comes to smartphones, and most recently we did see it at the BKC store, where you did have punches being thrown there.